Hello and welcome back to the Chi Podcast. I'm Jeremy C, and it has been quite a time since I've recorded a podcast. December 22, if memory serves me right. And quite a bit has happened since then, both in the world and my life. So I just want to make this an opportunity for myself to reintroduce myself and catch you up on kind of what I've been up to and some of the lessons lived and learned. So probably it makes sense to start at 2022 and where that chapter of the podcast was up to and then just kind of flow forward. This is actually my second take because I got totally lost in the weeds of trying to get ultra detailed about everything that had gone on. And I think it makes sense at this point to just give you a bit of a overview to not get too granular. So back in 22, I was working away doing construction, heavy industry work, and basically my insight of that, both at the time and now, was it was about healing my masculine, and it definitely did do that. And it's interesting to see that the work that I laid the foundation of there really served me in the years following that. So that was an extra kind of validation of that being a good use of experience during that time period. I guess where the podcast fell off a little bit for me is I was in a relationship with someone that didn't wish to have their part of the equation documented in any way, which I'm absolutely respectful of. But for me, a large part of my journey is experiencing and sharing my experience. So I guess through both a desire to not share that and respect to them, I stopped the flow of the podcast and then kind of fell out of the habit of it. But here we are now with much that has been internalized since then. So basically going forward from there, I finished working in heavy industry. I went and signed up for personal training, realizing that it was time to get committed to the path that I wanted to be on. I had about 5 weeks in between finishing work and starting the personal training study. So, of course, I decided to throw a yoga teacher training in there, leaving 3 days until I finished work to get there. 21 days of yoga after truck driving for 3 months was incredibly difficult. The body definitely felt the adaptation phase. I'd gone from sedentary to then trying to be active, and the body put up so much resistance, and I had so many thoughts of like, no, just quit, do it later. But I'm like, no, I've been wanting this for years, so I committed to it. And about 10 days in, I finally broke through and actually wanted to move. So yeah, that was a challenge, I will admit. Then I had 4 days off and I got back to do my personal training study, and yeah, basically jumped straight into 3 months of intense study. And I guess this desire to align with the path that I wanted to be on, of service to others and aligning with my skills and talents, caused me to think I could simultaneously launch my Chi coaching business. It was good because I came up with a really cool logo, ran a retreat, and started, putting effort into the content around that. But while trying to study at the same time, that was not realistic, and further compounded by me falling off my computer chair and suffering a mild TBI while doing some breath work. And, that really did not help things. Probably the 5th concussion I've had in my life, and amongst other health things, does not add well to the equation. And, one quick insight from that, it was really fascinating that when I experienced that, and it was quite a hard hit to the head, off the computer chair, woke up as I was on the ground, I realized how much our physical condition of our brain affects our sense of self. So immediately, aside from the headache, study became a lot more difficult. And for about a 2-week period, I found myself with a lowered sense of self to about a 30% decrease, where I probably wasn't articulating things as well. My thought coherence wasn't as structured. And I generally, aside from that, just had a kind of 30% depression that I think when the brain gets shook up, you do experience that. So I found that quite interesting, reaffirming the importance of having the brain's integrity in the utmost. So moving forward, I was simultaneously going into a relationship that presented some challenges, and I then didn't finish my PT study, ran out of money, went working away. Again, really realizing this isn't aligned with me, making a lot of mistakes while coming out of burnout and like post TBI, and working 80 hours a week. Not the best idea, but when you need money, sometimes you need to dig deep, and that's what I chose to do. Then, feeling still desired to catch up on things that I hadn't executed on, I enrolled in a mindset certification, which I really should have listened to my intuition and waited until the end of the year to do. But the coach that I was working with encouraged me to act sooner. And I think in general, that is a worthy approach. And for 9 out of 10 people, that would be accurate. But in my case, waiting until I'd overcome the burnout and regenerate myself would have been the wise decision. But, I suppose he's not going to sacrifice 9 out of 10 people that may be not acting now because of their own blocks, where that was really up to me. So there was a bit of lesson to be learnt there for me to trust my own instinct. From there, I tried to go into launching my business in the coaching space, but it highlighted another error in my ways where I tried to invest my energy into 3 different streams of trying to do technical support, help launching podcasts, coaching people, doing social media for others. And someone that I did the course with pointed out to me, a fellow coach, he was like, "You're spreading yourself a bit thin." I was like, "No, I got this." And I didn't got this. I really underestimated how much energy I actually had. And I was probably running at about 10% of my capacity. And it was so crucial that I put that into avenues that were going to immediately return to me. Like, if I were brutally honest, if I just focused on working with one client at a time and put no other focus anywhere, I probably could have got through. But instead, putting my focus into all of these different avenues and then not getting a return on that energetically or financially meant that I both ran out of money and energy, and it stopped me continuing that path. Once again, having to go back to heavy industry and really digging deep. Like, when you deplete your energy and you get down to what feels like 0% and you're wasted, and then you go into a deeper level of reserve energy and you realize, oh, there's more energy. I did that probably 5 times over, and it's not good to do that. I think I started to dig into like the deep adrenal kind of backup energy reserve systems. And when I finally got overseas to take a break, I pretty much was in a hotel bed for 3 weeks straight. And I remember the sensations in my body that were arising had me low-key worried that I was like, oh, I've done some damage here, because there's some pain and there's some sense of inflammation that is not good right now. Fortunately, that started to shift, and within about 2 months, I was in a more functional state. Although I think when you break through so many floors of energy into those deeper reserve, you don't just immediately replenish energy and feel better. There's stages that you need to go through, and that takes time. And obviously, appropriate approaches, decreasing inflammation, increasing nutrients, fixing anything that's been the consequence of prolonged stress, which is numerous effects on the body, gut dysbiosis and other things like that. So I find life often gives you challenging experiences, or at least for me, challenging experiences, and then some really like nurturing, soul replenishing ones. And I was fortunate to experience that in Thailand, where I volunteered at a resort, and yeah, that was such a beautiful experience. On beachfront, plenty of dogs, happy, and yeah, that was beautiful people that I shared that experience with. So that really replenished my soul, and it needed it because for what was to come. The next kind of phase I'm going to be a little bit cryptic on because there's some sensitive things that I can't share. But basically, I went through some family drama following my nan's passing away at 99. That was not such a difficult thing for her to go, in all honesty, because she was ready to and she'd been wanting it for a while. So I was quite close with her, and I guess I knew that she was ready to go, so there was almost a sense of relief for me. But there were some other things that arose from that that were challenging but healing at the same time. And then from there, I have to continue to be cryptic. There was an emotional event that occurred, and I guess the overarching themes were narcissism, manipulation, but also healing. Quite interesting, this experience that I had hallmarks of past narcissists that I'd had dealings with, but where I'd allowed them to have power in the dynamic previously. In this instance, I was able to actually right the wrongs of the past, if you would. And although I think any interaction with someone that has a deep level of chaos within them that gets projected onto you, it does have an impact on oneself, but also that healing created a sense of empowerment, and I think stretched my sense of self in the direction that it needed to go. So there still required a bit of healing from that. And what didn't bode well was during that time, I, instead of leaning on my practices, I leant more into shortcuts, which came in the form of being prescribed diazepam, a benzodiazepam, and Valium, if anyone is unfamiliar with the terms. And basically, I was unaware somehow. I have so much understanding of other pharmacology and substances, but this one went under the radar, and perhaps for the best. But basically, for those of you who don't know, within 2 weeks, or as little as 2 weeks of taking Valium consistently, your GABA receptors can become reliant on it and start to basically form physical dependence. So when you stop taking it, there's an upset of GABA glutamate, and it can cause some really bad deleterious effects. Usually 2 weeks would not be that bad. I took it for 5 weeks, thinking that I could use it for a short term, come off and be fine. And the problem was, it wasn't just for the anxiety that the emotional event created. It was also when I was taking it, I noticed that some of my long-term chronic symptoms of neck pain, of sleep problems, of recovery at the gym all seemed to improve. And I was like, oh, awesome. I can use this as a stepping stone, work out, get into good shape, get better sleep, reset myself, and then stop taking it and I'll be good. And I really underestimated the damage that it could have caused, and it did cause a lot. So when I stopped taking it, you'd always want to taper consistent use if it's more than 2 weeks. And I did query that, but as I was overseas and changing countries from Thailand to Bali, I was like, okay, well, you know what, maybe 5 weeks isn't that long, it should be okay. And basically I went through this rebound high stress effect. Definitely the acute withdrawal wasn't too bad. I did then start meditating and just trying to work out through it. But probably about 2 months afterwards, my health really started declining, and all of that progress I'd made at the gym was stripped away, because as stress goes up and cortisol increases, that has an inverse relationship with testosterone. So basically my testosterone went down, stress went up, and 10 kilos I lost in about 4 months, and a lot of it was muscle. So I kind of took 1 step forward, 3 steps back. And the problem was, it wasn't just the physical side of things degrading, it was my mind as well. There was definitely increased slurring of speech. There was decreased memory, thought, fluency and articulation just all decreased. And what was really interesting is my sense of self also almost regressed. Like, I felt like I was a version of myself from 5 years ago. I felt like I went from being a mature version to a more teen version and feeling more impulsivity, more reactivity. And again, highlighting how important our brain is, the neurology and the structural integrity of our brain and the chemicals it produces for our sense of self. So I think overall it was a useful experience because it took me out of this high momentum state of trying to do a lot. And I got to a point where I'd actually partitioned 2 months to be in Vietnam and finish a book that I'm working on, which I can go a little bit into briefly. But basically, I was meant to be working on this book, getting it completed, and my health crashed so badly that I was couch bound, and the most I could do was go out to buy shopping to cook and maybe a 2-hour massage, which the massage was fine. I could have probably gone 6 hours a day at that stage, but just the walking around would wipe me out. So at that point, all I could really do was just come into acceptance and just allow it to be, and also accept this absolute loss of self, going from peak state last year where I was super social, able to interact with anyone, feeling good in myself, like probably in the peak physical shape I've been, and then going into this absolutely contrasted state, which has been a theme in my life. So it didn't feel too unfamiliar. And I would say this loss of sense of self, I would probably have gone through 15 times in my life, and I can't say that it gets any easier, but you know how to go through it and then have the confidence that you can rebuild from there. So I'll quickly touch on the book and then where I'm heading now. So this book that I've been working on, I'm calling The Way of the Self. And this book started by me having the intention to document the wisdom that has revealed itself to me through these rich life experiences. And basically, starting in a Google Sheet, I mapped out 1,000 rows of various areas of wisdom. And some of that was while working away and understanding masculine dynamics. And I guess ultimately it's a lot of the metaphysics and the way things work in life. And then I started to put that into a Google slide and make visuals to go with it. And then I started transforming that into a Notion course where I had it organized in really logical branchings. So that is some way along where there's almost a PDF ready. If you are interested in it, hit me up or I'll drop a waiting list thing somewhere. But yeah, I think there's some profound things in there and I'm really excited to share them. So that's something that's been giving me a lot of fulfillment, but not coming along as quickly as I would like. And then on the side to that, I've also been working on a thing that I call the knowledge tree, which is basically all the areas of life that I'm interested in. And I've put them into, I guess it's called like a second brain. So like when I do research, which is quite a lot, I feel that it's a waste for me to spend 5 hours researching a particular topic and then not share that wisdom. So this has been a way for me to capture that and have it in a way that can create some shortcuts. Because, you know, of that research, if I'm trying to find information on what's the nuances of supplements, for example, and then I go to 5 websites, oh no, that one's an affiliate, that one's selling it, that one's something. And eventually you have to take the information from each place, work out what is the truth, and then present it. And that's what I'm trying to do with this knowledge tree. So I think I would like some people to give me feedback on that, like as a bit of a beta run. Maybe if you're interested, reach out to me on that front too. and where I'm at now. So, fortunately, my health is still being worked on, but it's coming back. And I've moved back to Australia to honour the call that I was feeling, that travel was no longer the experience that I was needing. Adventure had been satiated, and stability is what I needed. So, from here, I'm finishing off that PT study finally. And then I'm going to start offering a combination of, I guess, health coaching and life coaching with some personal training clients here. And yeah, really just getting back to that alignment of what I want to do in life to help others, and also align with my values and what I feel will continue my growth. So this initial podcast for the second time went way longer than I was expecting. Hopefully that was interesting. I'm going to chuck this on Spotify and YouTube. And yeah, I'm really feeling called to creating a community too, with people who are interested in sharing the journey. Because, there's this dynamic of coaches where they gatekeep all the information and then have people below them pay. And, there's some benefit to that, but I also feel there's a lot of benefit from being on a lateral plane where we grow together. And honestly, from where I'm at the moment, my routine is not dialed in like it has been in the past. And yeah, it would be cool to create a community where I can also have some benefit and help others, and we can all kind of grow together. So comment, reach out. However, I would love to hear from you and connect. Until then, Jeremy C., and I look forward to hearing from you.